Hello and welcome to This Week in Sports. I am your labor union representative this week, Nick, with my co-host and fellow proletariat working man comrade, Zach.
Oh, funny, because I was actually going to put you in that role anyway this week.
Fantastic. Well, we are here on a very special Labor Day edition of This Week in Sports. Coming to you on a short week of coverage as we are recording on the front side of Labor Day weekend this time around. So not quite as much sports to cover this week, which gives us the perfect opportunity to get lost in some thoughts, maybe.
Plenty of thoughts to get lost in this week.
And I have not so much of a segment as much as a backdoor pilot for a potential spin-off podcast for the back half of the show today.
All right, sounds good.
So with that being said, if you are here for Player of the Week and Closing Quiz, this might not be the episode for you, but hopefully it is still an entertaining episode of This Week in Sports. That being said, what happened in basketball since last time we were here?
Well, it's been a funny thing. Basketball has been crazy. Not so much in the NBA. The NBA is dead silent right now. No one is making any sort of moves or doing anything. Season is coming soon.
Yeah, mostly
October.
I've just been hearing people talk about Michael Porter Jr. on podcasts.
He is going crazy. That man he's a different animal out there as the superstar out there in Brooklyn. I am I cannot express my happiness for Cam Johnson right now.
To not have to try and be defending MPJ.
Yeah, I thank God.
Mm-hmm.
But neither here nor there. We'll talk about the true superstars right now, the WNBA. The WNBA, we haven't had a ton of action. Like you said, we are recording on a Friday here, so today's games haven't even started because we are recording at 5 p.m. on a Friday, and they start at 6. So as we record, they'll start to begin underway. Actually, first game begins at 5:30. We got a little bit of an early one here on the West Coast. How nice.
Nice.
But the important things to note is, one, we'll talk about the Sparks to begin here. I mean, you can't really talk about the WNBA without talking about the Los Angeles teams. Kind of the same for every sport. The Sparks, as we know, have been sort of on that brink. They are still sitting at 9. They have basically gone 1-1 this week. They actually lost their first one. In fact, I think they're going to play again today, if I remember correctly, today or tomorrow. One of the two somewhere on this Labor Day weekend. They did lose earlier this week against the Mercury. Not super ideal. Unfortunately for the Sparks, though, is they kind of go on a little bit of a rough schedule here. I think from the Mercury, they're about to go play the Dream, who are top 5 team in the WNBA currently. They do get the Mystic later this weekend as well. They take on the Fever. It's basically everyone who's in playoff contention. They kind of get a look at and to really have a fighting chance to get in, but they have to win some big ones here.
Yeah, for sure. Because as we said, this is sort of the tail end of the season here. Time to make your moves if you're making them.
It is do or die time. There's only a handful of games left now. We've been talking about the end is coming now for 20 games, but now we're down to about a handful for most teams coming up here.
Yeah, well, less than 2 weeks of game action left on the schedule here before we're in playoffs.
Yes.
Wonderful.
And to continue on our streak here, how about the Aces? Once again, they are done for the week, I do believe already. They did go 2-0, 12-0 here on the back half here. Aja Wilson and her crew this week beat the Sky 79-74. That game is important because the Chicago Sky, they were in Chicago, and the Chicago Sky retired Candace Parker's jersey that night, and that was actually a tough game too. They played hard in that game. That one was a scary one to watch.
79-74 is a pretty close.
They were back and forth pretty much. It really came down to the last few minutes of the game, which was terrifying as an Aces fan, and we know how Chicago's been kind of playing all year, so not ideal, but they did it. Name the game is you just need to come out with wins. I say that now, and I'm gonna once again I will be a little bit of a hypocrite on that sometimes. They also beat the Dream earlier this week as well on Wednesday, I do believe, 81-75. Atlanta Dream, another top team. I think they're top 5 right now.
Dreamer in the 3 spot now they after being knocked out by the Aces of the number 2.
Yep, the Aces take the number 2 spot with their 12-0 run and clinch a playoff spot. Them and the Lynx are in, which is a crazy statement to say, especially after how we've
Yeah.
covering them from the beginning of this podcast.
At the All-Star break, the Aces were on the outside looking in, if I remember
11.
correctly.
They were sitting at 11.
Yeah, absolutely insane run. 12 in a row. I mean, are we looking at what's the WNBA record for games in a row?
I do not know that off the top of my head. That's good information I should have put down. I think there's been bigger streaks because the Aces.
I'm sure there have.
Yeah, the Aces have. The Aces had a run where I think they had a season where they only lost a couple, 2 games in a season or something like that.
Quick Google here says that the longest streak is 18 by the 2001 Los Angeles Sparks.
Yeah, that team is also very, very good.
Yeah. So
with Lisa Leslie, yeah.
I mean, another couple. I stay hot at the end of the season here, and we might be able to get in striking range of that one.
They are hot at the right time. I am a little worried because we always talk about the philosophy of they are hot at the end here, but if they
are you burning the fuel too fast right now?
Are you burning the fuel too fast? And what happens if a bye comes along? If you end up in one of those spots, you kind of lose the momentum, which has been sort of what's propelling this. Luckily, it's in a series, which I don't know. Depends on which Aces team shows up, because now we have a little bit of a tale of the same cities with 2 different teams.
Yeah, for sure. There was a first half team and a second half team.
And boy, you sure hope if that second half team shows up, because they've shown that they are more than capable. I mean, the Lynx, I think, are
literally can beat anyone else in the league. It looks like
the Lynx, I still think, are odds-on favorites to win the whole thing, rightfully so. Nafisa and her crew over there are, I think, destined to win this year. They fell just a little bit short.
They were right on the doorstep last year. It seems like they're in that kind of position where it's like, they right on the cusp of getting there.
Yeah, the Liberty haven't clinched quite yet, but they are I expect them to be the returning team, and it is theirs to sort of take their crown again, really to show it's up to Brianna and her team to figure out and show that she is a top star in the league. She doesn't get talked about, I don't think, nearly enough, because unfortunately she is been overshadowed by Nafisa, who's been around since for a little bit now, and then Aja, who's been around since she's been around. So it's not quite been the same.
Now, speaking of, because of how the second half has gone, Nafisa went down with injury for a little while. Has that opened the door for Asia to get back into MVP consideration this year? Is there a little bit more competition, do we think, or is Nafisa still far and away? If Asia goes on this record-breaking run at the end of the season here and drives her team from outside of the playoffs to top seed, is that enough to take MVP again?
So funny enough, I'm pretty sure if you look inside of my Lost in Thought, there's a question there, and I think we can talk about that if that's the topic we so choose. Is what does it mean to be? How do we define success in athletics?
Sure. And yes, we could. Maybe we will cover that one this week because, I'm sure we both have thoughts on that. But
my personal opinion. I'm going to say no, but in my heart, I think she has done more than enough to claim that she is, I think, statistically, at least for this back half year, the best player in the WNBA once again. Like, hands down, no arguments around. Mostly because Nafisa is down right now.
The timing of it all. The other thing I was thinking of in regards to how this season has gone, and I think it's to the benefit of the league that we haven't heard as much Caitlin Clark news this year, whether that's because she's been injured or, I mean, largely due to her not playing. The Fever have been like just kind of mid. They're a couple games over 500.
I think the hype is slowly starting to calm down. I think Caitlin Clark did an excellent job sort of introducing a lot of people into women's basketball overall, but in the grand scheme of things, Caitlin Clark is still playing in a league with Aja and with Nafisa and with Brianna Stewart, who I do not think she is quite yet better than. Don't get me wrong, she's a great player, but she is not. You can't say she's potentially one of the GOATs of all time.
Sure, yeah, it's only her second year, and like I said, I think that's to the benefit of the league because that was, I think, a big issue as far as public image went from last season, where it was kind of everything was centered around Caitlin Clark. And that was who was her opponent, what matchups is she in, and that really did feel kind of unsustainable for a long-term, marketing strategy of we're growing this game with this one person. It has felt a little bit more organic. Like Paige Beckers has done admirable job of stepping into those very intimidating shoes of being like the touted number 1 draft pick. And then we've gotten to see kind of the older generation, the stars who had been here before Caitlin Clark burst on the scene, get a little bit more attention this year.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, that's how every league is sort of birthed, at least to get sort of the kickoff. If you look at the NBA, they did it with Magic and Bird to kind of go on to their big scene breakout moment. I think you need to have at least 1, 2, or a few stars to sort of be the face of the thing to introduce all these other potential cool options that you have around. But
yeah. Any other basketball news?
Nope. We are going Aces, seeing how long that undefeated streak can last. It would be the thought of them potentially continuing on their streak at least up into through the playoffs, at least that first round, be crazy.
Absolutely wild, yeah. Like I said, getting into Rocktober territory in terms of hotness. Very good. Well, if that is all the basketball news, we'll do a quick little hockey roundup. As we said, it's just been quiet this time of year for the sports, and with a very short time frame in between our last report, we did get to see the results of that alumni game. I believe it went into a shootout, which I believe DU ended up winning.
Why is
it was DU alum versus Avs alum. A fun time was had by all.
Why is Sakic not playing?
Now, that's a great question, and I found very hilarious because 2 of his line mates from his playing days were playing on, like, Forsberg and Hayduk were out there.
Yes. Granted, Joe is, I think, older than them, I'm pretty sure.
A little.
Like, he's a little bit older than Forsberg, and he's
certainly he was not the oldest of the alumni group, though. But yes, apparently when you're president of hockey operations, you don't have to lace him up in the alumni game anymore. So yes, we did have Joe Sakic coaching the alumni. We did get some great memory moments of Peter Forsberg out in an Avs sweater again, Milan Hayduk out there sniping some goals for us. The DU alum had the benefit of Logan O'Connor on the bench.
That's crazy.
Very funny because he won a championship with DU before he became.
Yeah, but it's crazy to think that we have Hayduk and Peter Forsberg who are nearing their 50s, and we have Logan O'Connor who is still
not playing, mind you. He was just on the bench as like a coach. He actually is ahead of his schedule on his hip surgery recovery. He has been seen skating recently, but yeah, they would not be throwing him out to actually play. There was a surprise on the ice for the Avs in the alumni game, and that was Tyson Barrie, who played in that alumni game and then announced his retirement.
He's like, I can't even score on these guys.
Yeah. 14 years already of Tyson Barrie.
Doesn't feel like it's been that long.
It really went by in a flash. 8 of those with the Avs in the burgundy and blue, the beginning of his career, as he very
fortunately he did not come at the right time. He kind of got a glimpse of the good, and
I mean, self-aware as always. In many interviews he has stated as soon as Cale Makar took the ice, he knew his time in Denver was over, because that was basically the job. Like his role on the team was the offensive playmaking defenseman, and then Cale Makar showed up and said, I've got that under control. And they said, well, we don't really need this Tyson Barrie anymore. So, yes, Tyson Barrie did call it a career. Another spotting of older defensemen, Eric Johnson, who we have mentioned has not been offered any contracts yet, did go ahead and do the broadcast on the alumni game.
He is old.
He is old.
Did they have the other Johnson? It'd be cool to have a Johnson and Johnson
broadcast pairing. That would be pretty hilarious. But no, our Jack Johnson is still at camp with Minnesota, as we recall. But yeah, that was kind of all my notes for hockey this week. Just some good old times, catching up with old friends and faces of the Avs family here.
So exciting.
But yeah, we're still ramping up. Rookies and like actual players have started to come back in town, are skating in sort of little organized groups over at Family Sports. The rookie showcase happens later half of September, and then October we'll be back to preseason action. I believe we are now under the count today is 39 days away from opening night.
From actual opening night?
From actual opening night.
That's kind of scary.
It's pretty close. It's coming fast. But that is all the hockey news. Shall we talk about football before regular season kicks off?
Sure.
There's one big piece of news out of football world this week.
Well, we'll start with the small one, and then we can talk
yeah.
about the role that you've assigned yourself to.
Oh boy.
So the small news one is the Cleveland Browns. They got rid of another quarterback.
What?
I do believe earlier this week they traded Kenny Pickett, so they're now down to 5 quarterbacks.
Ah, geez, their strat's never going to work off if they keep shedding quarterbacks like this.
Unfortunately, the Raiders did lose Aiden O'Connell. He got hurt like at the end of a preseason game or whatever. It broke his hand.
I do remember that. Yeah.
So they needed a guy to back up Gino because he's a little bit old himself too. He'd never be too safe. And Kenny Pickett, he was not gonna be a guy. So there is potential out there that
hasn't Kenny Pickett already been a Raider too?
No, he was Pittsburgh last couple years. He was drafted. He's the man with the little hands, and they didn't like that.
That's right.
Quarterback with the little hands. But there is a world out there, a timeline out there, which Shadur or Dylan Gabriel steps out there and could be playing for the Browns.
Yeah.
If something does, we have to remember Flacco is also an old man. One wrong tackle, and we got rookie shows out there.
Wrong tackle, just get out of bed wrong.
Yep.
You never know when it's going to be a lower body injury out for 2 weeks.
Yep. So that's a crazy thought that we'd never be here after having a million quarterbacks on the roster.
And still quite a few more than average.
They are still up to 5, which I guess it's 4 now.
When a lot of teams are like, do we do 2 or 3?
And they're like, we have 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they have one on the practice squad too, which is like 5.
Essentially, yeah.
That's too many. Far too many.
Still a lot.
Indeed. Now, you assigned yourself the role of being a representative of the labor union.
Sure.
Funny enough, let's say you are the representative of the labor union. Unfortunately, it's going to be the NFL PA, not the ideal labor union of these days right now.
No, not the first foot we want to put forward for labor unions here on Labor Day weekend.
No, not ideally. But let's say you yourself, you're a representative of this union. We'll even maybe put you in a good role like executive or assistant executive. I hear they're looking for those these days.
Delightful.
Let's say you hear that one of your players is sort of talking to an owner, and the owner has apparently done a handshake deal with said player without his representative being around. Is that okay?
No, that's definitely not ideal.
I most say no, and in fact, I'm pretty sure the bylaws of the NFLPA say.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain we'd have to start looking at lawsuits, sort of thing.
Yeah, most would agree with that, but Jerry Jones himself says I'm untouchable, and he decided that is what is going to happen, and how we ended up in this Micah Parsons situation that we've been sort of talking about this offseason. Will they? Won't they? Sort of deal. And
seems like they have to.
I didn't. Yeah, the issue is. So I didn't know, and we've gotten a little bit more details, is how this all came about is Jerry Jones and brought Michael up, I think, towards the end of last season or somewhere in the spring, like early on when the season was pretty much done. They're like, hey, what would it take for you? I think they were just discussing how the season went, and he's like, hey, what would it take for you to be a Cowboy? And Michael's like, this is sort of what I would ideally want.
Here's the ballpark.
Yeah. And Jerry Jones like, cool, we can do that. Done deal. And Michael Parsons says, cool, reach out to my agent.
Put that on paper.
He was like, reach out to my agent with this. And Jerry was like,
no, we just did it. That was your deal.
That's what the deal was. And he was like, well, we haven't even just started to. So this is where we have the separation between Jerry Jones is like, we have a deal set. And Michael's like, we haven't even started to discuss about what a deal is. Because my agent.
I do not consider that actual work or legally binding in any fashion. Yeah. Like every other player would, I would say.
Some players, I will say, represent themselves. So it is a thing that happens, but they'll have like outside people come and look and make sure the contract is all.
And generally those
good.
Fellas have taken some sort of self-interest in making sure they understand contract language and
sure, or have a team around them that will do so. Micah did not. He is represented by an agent, and his deal does need to go through his agent that he is represented by.
Yeah.
Per the NFLPA bylaws, which I'm pretty sure is a finable offense.
Oh,
funny,
for sure.
Funny enough, it's not no quiz here, but what do you think how much do you think that finable offense is for the owner?
Let's see, probably in a 6-figure range, maybe like $100,000 or something.
That's funny. It's $65,000 for your first offense.
Yeah.
$65,000 is for your first offense, which is what this would be for Jerry Jones, but they haven't fined him or anything. And earlier this week, they said well, Micah's not going to play, and we're Jerry Jones' ego is like, I'm not going to go to discuss the deal with his agent, which is apparently the father of this mother and father deal that they have going on. That since Jerry already had a deal worked out with him, clearly, which is what we just discussed, and Micah's like, no. And Jerry said, well, we're not going to discuss it anymore. And the Packers came in and said, what if we enter this situation? Maybe we take on your problem. We give you some stuff back. And Jerry Jones said, sure, that sounds good. So Jerry sent Micah packing out to Green Bay for a player and 2 first-round draft picks.
Which, I mean, seems like almost a little bit of an overpay from the Packers' point of view. But
Packers also signed Micah to, I do believe, a $118 million or $15 million deal, and it's like $42 million a year, making him the highest paid non-QB ever.
Which, I mean, to me, sounds like Micah comes away the winner in this whole situation. Out of Dallas, gets a nice little payday.
Out of Dallas.
Green Bay is still very... You're going to go face those Cowboys a couple times.
You are going to see them at least once this year, I'd assume. Yeah. Maybe not, depending on... I'd have to look at their schedule. Green Bay... Dallas did so poorly last year, they may not see Green Bay.
But yeah, that is... I mean, the biggest thing was that, yes, the whole kerfuffle has finally resulted in a trade, which I did think was the likeliest outcome. It did not look like Micah was getting ready to do any football activities for Dallas.
I think Micah would have settled had we gotten the whole deal figured out, but I think Jerry Jones was so set on the deal. The problem is right, he had this deal set, making him the largest paid back in I don't know, like March or whatever it was, March, April-ish, when he called Micah up to his office. So back then, highest paid for him was like $32 million, something around there, something in that ballpark. Now we have players 35, 36,
yeah, more
42.
deals get done.
Now it's a problem. Jerry didn't want to pay it, basically cough up that extra money, and he had agreed to the highest paid.
Thought he already had an agreement in place, which
Yep.
is just an insane thing for a businessman in 2025 to think that. I don't. That is such the like old white man thinking of. Well, this is how we did it back in my day, and that's totally fine, and I expect it to be the whims to be bent to my thinking, and everyone else in the world is being like, no, Jerry, you have to write it down in a contract, and it has to be signed, and it has to be looked at by lawyers.
It's foreign to him. He's done a lot. So if you ever watched I just sat through the whole Cowboys documentary on Netflix. There's 8 episodes, about an hour or so each. His whole thing is he's all about sort of the handshake, word of mouth deal. That's like sort of how he got the Cowboys and how he's just always operated.
And I hate to tell you, Jerry, but the world has passed you by in your 82 years now, and that's just not the way things work anymore.
Yeah, I don't know why he thought that would work in today's world, especially now that there's a lot more power in the players' hands than there used to be.
It's not even like this has been a thing in the near past or like recent history. No, the players like union and agents and everything have been around for quite a while, standard since the 90s at least. So, I mean, why did he think? If anything, it feels like it's trying to take advantage of your employees who don't know better or who might not understand their rights in that situation.
Yeah, I think he felt a little slighted because it's like, well, we agreed on this, and he kind of Jerry Jones is he does some good things and he does some bad things. He always tries to kind of look out for the players, but he's also looking out for himself and the organization as well. So it's like you said, it's a weird thing. I don't know how to feel about. I mean, I know how to feel about the whole situation. It's disgusting. But the weird thing to me was on the way out. Like, I don't think he really even thanked Micah for the press conference. All he said is, "We need to be better at stopping the run," which was like his. The
focus. Very fun thing was watching them trying to spin it all this week of like, no, this was a good decision that we would have made anyway, and we do think it makes us a stronger team, even though. That was like one of your best players who's going to be playing against you this year.
So watching the documentary, I've learned a lot about the Dallas Cowboys organization that I may or may not needed to know, but it comes in handy for this podcast moment. So if we look back at sort of what the dynasty of the Cowboys were in the 90s,
Mhm.
a lot of that was a combination of Jerry Jones, of course, being the owner GM that he is, and then Jimmy Johnson sort of being the football mind that he is. There's always been this disconnect and discontent between them because Jimmy always felt like he was sort of the ringmaster and sort of puppet master of combining all the Cowboys, bringing in Troy Aikman or helping draft Troy Aikman, and then bringing in Emmitt Smith and
Yep,
everyone
yep.
else on that team. He's been sort of the scout and the drafter for. Which now that if we go back, hindsight's a little bit more 2020 now. We look at all the people that Jerry Jones, without the hand of Jimmy Johnson or someone else, sort of
Yeah,
being
it
in
was
his ear.
in hindsight, it was less of a wow, what a powerful combination, and more of a oh, actually, it was mostly just Jimmy.
It really feels like it's just mostly Jimmy at this point because even when they won the year that they won without him with Switzer was still a mostly Jimmy team. Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman,
It's
Emmitt
still
Smith,
the framework of what he
everything
put together.
that Jimmy put together still, which is still, I think it's hard for Jerry Jones' ego is such a big thing that it's hard for him to accept that, and also he will not let go of the reins because he wants to run this team, and unfortunately, he is running them straight to the ground. That is.
You know, this reminds me of the quote from The Dark Knight where Two-Face, played by Aaron Eckhart, is having the dinner with Christian Bale Batman, and he says the thing about you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And at the time, as a younger man, like, kind of cheesy line, don't really get. And it has just continued to prove more and more wise and prescient the longer I continue to live. And it very much feels like, yes, this is Jerry Jones kind of getting high on his own supply, just like, yeah, gets into his head that, I'm a football genius and cannot be wrong.
I understand where he's coming from, but also like the ego in sports, you have to have a big ego in general to get to becoming a professional athlete. Like at some point, everyone on the field was the guy somewhere. And if you're the owner of a team, you have to be a guy somewhere to have that amount of money. If you're a coach, it's the same thing. You've been a sort of a touted guy for at least a few years before you got that job, if not more. Like it's all of these dudes who are just a bunch of egos running around and sort of how to manage all that. But if the dude who's controlling the team and is like the biggest issue with the team, and for us, it's for most teams, it's not the owner who's also the GM. Never, it's the Dallas.
Very rarely, yeah.
Dallas is the only place where this happens, where Jerry has this sort of control and is the only one that can do self harm to his own team.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique situation in this day and age to still have the owner be in that direct control of the roster.
I can't imagine it's happened literally anywhere else. Like back in the olden days when we first started to have the leather helmets and George Clooney's out there playing.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, that's kind of the thing that got Mike Shanahan run out of the league was that he wanted.
So that's a little different.
It's a little different, but like that notion of having the full control of like being the coach and the GM and all that has very quickly gone out of style across the league, I would say.
It doesn't happen anywhere. Bill Belichick was the last one to do that.
The end of the era.
Yeah. But I think that one is so different because it's like having a coach and general manager be the same person doesn't hurt my head so much because
there's still an employee who can be
still
removed.
An employee.
Yeah,
and as the owner, I can look at my product and be like, this is not right. And I can replace somebody who can bring in a new or different perspective. But if I am the reason my product is the way it is and I only see, unfortunately, whatever it is, gold or dollar bills attached to this as Dallas, I think is like the top 2 most valuable franchises in the world of professional sports.
That seems a little high, but okay.
It
maybe for like football teams.
No, I think it's in the world.
No way. The European football clubs got to be worth more.
Hit the Google machine. They are worth, I think it's like $4-something billion, making them the highest. I think they are the highest value team, like professional sports team.
Well, I'll be proven wrong immediately by the Wikipedia results. In the Forbes list, the most valuable sports team, rank number 1, Dallas Cowboys, $10.1 billion. Yep. Okay, so this is Forbes.
Yes.
It does include Association Football. Wow.
They do, yes.
Okay, so much to my chagrin, we don't get a Premier League team until Manchester United in at the 14th spot. at $6.5 billion.
Yes.
Wild. Okay, yeah. Cowboys, Golden State, LA Rams, New York Yankees, and New York Knicks round out your top 5, for anyone curious. That 5 spot coming in at $7.5 billion valuation.
Yes.
Wild. Okay, well, Island, a little something there.
Yeah. So I don't know how you like the team is still valuable and he is bringing value, but also the product is horrendous.
And there's still that element of there's no such thing as bad press, and that even if it is us talking about how incompetent and egotistical and out of touch Jerry Jones is, we're still talking about Jerry Jones, and that is value to their brand.
I don't know. I don't know if the Cowboy fans have it in them to do just an outright ban of what is it when you boycott of
no, you can't pull that off down there.
Yeah, I just think they have too many fans just globally around the world.
Yeah, the amount of organization to hurt one of the biggest billionaires in sports would be staggering, and I would love to see it, but I do not think it's likely.
Yeah, I just don't think that's happening. So the maniac can continue to live on.
All right. Well, any other football news we need to cover before we have coverage of Week 1 action next week?
I do not believe
the Micah news was kind of the big thing this week. Everyone has trimmed down to their 53-man roster for the most part. There have been some late additions and whatnot after cuts have been made and whatnot.
I don't think there's been anyone who's been surprised. I think the biggest news here was we only have 2 quarterbacks on our roster like a normal team. Sam Ellinger, who was our third one, he had a pretty good preseason showing through and through. He did get offered some spots to go onto a 53-man roster, and he said, "I'm gonna hang here."
Yeah. I think that's a good sign for our roster construction that a lot of our cast-off guys got picked up by other teams too.
Yeah.
Which is mostly the takeaway I had, but. Otherwise, we will be, next week, hopefully have some coverage on that Week 1 matchup against Tennessee for the Broncos, as well as the other Week 1 action around the NFL. Otherwise, let's go talk about baseball. Again, not a whole lot happened here. The Rock's magic number to avoid the worst record of all time is down to 3. They've picked up 1 win from the Astros in their 3-game series this week.
They're not picking up like they were the earlier weeks. They're kind of slowing down a lot of it.
Yeah, kind of putting up some of those stinkers like we know them to do.
But they do have 3 weeks left.
They do still have quite a lot of time. It's still a potential. The 1 win we did take away was from a very nice performance by Tanner Gordon, who is auditioning to be any one of the warm bodies to fill the number 4 or 5 spot in the rotation. Put up 6 innings of 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts, and scattered 3 walks and 6 hits around without giving up too much damage on that. So you will absolutely take that for a Rockies pitcher. Otherwise, no such luck for the other starters. I do think after Thursday's game, Senzatella officially got bumped down to the bullpen. Which if it's I don't know why
I don't know if that's gonna help.
That's the rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic metaphor. It's like way too little, way too late. You're not at this point. It's just like, why didn't you do that 2 months ago?
I don't know if that. I mean, even if they did it 2 months ago, you're still rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
You at least free up the rotation spot to audition some more guys. There are more arms that you can see if they can do anything better than.
Do you think they would?
9 earned runs in the first inning every game.
Yeah, but do you think they have enough? What does our bullpen talent even look like? Because he's going to have to pitch still, regardless.
Unfortunately, he gets probably the inglamorous job of being the cleanup, the mop-up guy, which is whenever your new 3, 4, or 5 starter needs to get pulled in the 3rd inning, and you can't go to the good 6, 7, 8 guys.
He can't last 3 innings, though.
He's just that's his job now.
So imagine this. Imagine your 4 or 5 guy couldn't clean it up. They got to get pulled for 3 innings because they gave up.
You're already down.
However many runs.
You're already down by 7 or 8.
Sure, but then you bring in this guy. And now you're giving up another.
And now we're gonna set the record.
Now we're giving up another 5 or 6 runs.
Maybe.
That's
Or Senza will find that he maybe is better. I mean, we've done this experiment with Senza before early in his career.
Yeah, it did not go well.
Where it was like, okay, he's not doing so hot. Let's try him out of the bullpen. In his early career, it was also not pretty. So I do not expect the remainder of his season to be much better. Unfortunately, I don't know what you do with Antonio Senzatella.
I know what you do with him.
Well, I know what most regular thinking people would do, but I'm pretty certain what we're going to see is him right back in place for spring training next year.
I don't know. It depends.
We'll see.
It's up to little what's his name, McGregor.
Oh yeah. No, I don't even know who our general manager is now.
I thought it was him.
We should know this information. We know Warren Schaefer is the manager, but he doesn't make roster decisions. Bill Schmidt is the general manager for the team. That's the guy who's going to have to figure out what to do with Senza. But otherwise, outside of the one win stolen from the Astros, we are looking ahead to a weekend series with the Cubs here at Coors Field. One of the last big selling points for the team at Coors Field this year.
Have they cooled off any?
The Cubbies, no, they are heating up at just the right time, I do believe. They are trying to take their division and get themselves well in place for a playoff run here. And then, so that's going to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then starting on Labor Day, another afternoon sporting affair. We're welcoming the Giants for our last look at the San Francisco Giants this season. 3 games with them, and then the Padres next week. Before we go out to LA for our last California road trip, I do believe.
Anything's possible.
Oh no, we end the year seeing the Giants. So I take all of that back. But it's our last time hosting the Giants. So we'll see how that goes. Cubs, the Giants 3-game set I think could go either way. They have also been largely out of competition for this back half of the year. The Cubbies series, I will be very surprised if we take one of those.
3 games, is that possible?
It's so close that now that they will definitely be fumbling it around for at least another week or two.
Because we still have Miami coming in.
There will be, after our California teams, we're going to see a lot of Giants, Padres, Dodgers, Padres, and then Marlins, Angels.
Which is, I mean, you could grab 3 games just in those last 2 series.
But will they have the willpower at that point after being beaten up by the rest of the division for a month?
I think they're going to snag 3 games before then. I think they're going to still win in a couple of these division games here. Just one.
You're almost certainly correct, but I can still continue to hold out hope that they will just fumble the bag here down the end.
I want it to happen so bad, but I don't think we're bad enough anymore. Unfortunately, our managerial change did lead to some change in our roster.
Yeah, the new things that they have tried out have resulted in marginal improvements to the point where
the clearing of the house has done wonders. The spring cleaning in very late summer wonders.
Yes, certainly not as bad as they were in the first quarter of the year, but we'll see. It's still going to go down as one of the worst performances in baseball. Even if it's not the worst, we're still like bottom 5 for sure. This is for sure the franchise worst record of all time by a pretty long shot, too. I think our previous low was like 53 wins, something.
How are we supposed to know we had a warming Barnaby down there?
Yeah, I don't know. Big surprises there. The only other big note I had out of the MLB this week, outside of Rockies news, was our fan favorite here at This Week in Sports, Big Dumper, setting more records out there in Seattle. He now has eclipsed the 50 home run mark, which are very impressive number by itself. Has never been done before by a catcher or a switch hitter, and he is both.
I was about to say, is he a switch hitter? Because I've seen him
on both sides of the plate. Very confusing.
I haven't seen him on both sides of the plate. Where I've seen him from is because I keep getting spammed by T-Mobile ads with Big Dumper on him, and I'm like, wait, that man just turned to. I was like, can he do that, or are they playing this up a little bit for the ad?
No, that is a talent that he does have. He can switch. I believe he's right-handed. Dominant, but has picked up left-handed hitting, which is the easiest way to do switch hitting.
That is annoying.
Yeah. I dabbled in some switch hitting a little bit, but yeah, definitely easier to go righty to left than lefty to right.
It feels weird. I feel like the lefties are usually better at the right-handed stuff most of the time.
We have to adapt a lot, but yeah. So very historic achievement for Cal Raleigh out there as Seattle continues to fight. I believe they're still hunting down a wild card spot out there. in the American League. But otherwise, that was all my baseball news. And our other sports action was going to be the PLL. But as we covered last week, they do not play until Labor Day. So hopefully, we're listening to this podcast before tuning in to both of those games on ESPN. The little preview I can give you, the Western Conference Division, I don't know how they name it, but the Western Showdown is that California Redwoods versus Denver Outlaws matchup, which is a battle of brothers, the Kavanaugh brothers. We have older brother Pat. The California Redwoods have younger brother, what was his name? Cal? That seems too convenient.
Would be on brand, though. That'd be pretty good.
It would be kind of funny. It's Pat and Chris. There is also a third Kavanaugh brother, Matt, who I don't believe is in the league just yet. I think he might still be playing at Notre Dame here.
I would say they're a Notre Dame family, aren't they?
They are, yes. So that's going to be sort of the highlight thing to watch out of the Western matchup. And then for that Eastern matchup, you've got the Philadelphia Water Dogs against the number 1 New York Atlas. The Water Dogs are going to be the underdogs here, but they are playing at home in Philadelphia. So
wow, how did that happen?
Yeah, the perfect storybook setup for an upset going to the finals. But we will have all the coverage on the results on that for you for next week's episode. And otherwise, I think that is all of our sports coverage this week. Zach, last week I went ahead and picked our thought to get lost in. Why don't you get to give us a thought that we can wander around in for a little bit here?
Yeah, we can continue on the thought of what does it mean to be what is success in athletics? Because I think this thought comes around how does like MVP voting get done? How do you become a Hall of Famer? How do we define success for an athlete, for a team, things like this? What does it mean to be successful?
Absolutely. That's a great topic, and I think one that's going to be relevant for our back half segment here as well. And one that I think I will just come at the front gate of it with, I think that it's got to be, when we're talking about success, whose success are you talking about? And is it like that, the general public like notion of like, oh, championships and that sort of thing? Or is it, because there are...
Is it possible, can you separate them?
Oh, interesting. So I would say, yeah, there is a personal success, like that player to player, coach to coach, like the individual who is participating in sport can define whatever their personal idea of success is, because, while LeBron James and Nikola Jokic are championship or bust, I must be the greatest athlete in the world type mindset, there are some guys who are like, if I make the 53-man roster this year on special teams, that will be a huge accomplishment for me.
Yeah, I think the personal success is a thing, right? But when we're looking at how do we, I guess, objectively quantify what success is for sports?
Sure, and that has been a challenge for sports fans throughout all of history, which is, I think, part of the reason why baseball is the sport that I would say is the most littered with various statistics and whatnot that you can try and quantify and do the data analysis on the raw numbers of a performance to try and find like that way, which has resulted in like a change to the sport, like because of how much data we've been analyzing the last like 15, 20 years or whatever. Hitters have changed how they approach, like they're looking at hitting angle and like launch velocity and all that now a lot more closely.
So let's say, let's take this for this example. So the MLB, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say we have all these statistics and whatnot on personal stats, though. Let's say we have someone who is an incredibly, like statistically just a god. So let's say someone like a Mike Trout, and let's put him on a terrible team like the Los Angeles Angels.
Mm-hmm.
Should he be considered for an MVP, even though his team's success
he can't single-handedly, affect the team's success. I mean, and that's going to vary sport to sport as well, because as we've discussed, certain leagues are more designed to allow for individual impact on a game or on a season to that level. Like, I would say basketball, it's a little easier for one person to dominate than it in a 5v5 game than it is in a 9v9 in baseball.
I would agree, but like if we look at it, there are some places like we talked about a pitcher, for instance, where
Yep,
you can
yep.
have a pitcher is someone on a baseball field who can completely control the game,
Start
and
to
having
finish. Yep.
just like it's the same thing with the quarterback on an NFL field. Basketball and hockey are each a little bit different because
Yeah.
you can.
And it's position by position, game by game. Like there is discussion who has the hardest job in sports. Is it hockey goalies? Is it starting pitchers? Is it NFL quarterbacks? And there's arguments to be made for all of those spots. Does that mean that like a running back could never be the greatest football player of all time? Very tough to, and that's why I think my personal like this. Going to the philosophical level of this question, I personally don't think that there is a unanimous definition of sports success that anyone that we can set on a stage say these are the qualifications for success and that everyone across the board would agree on. I think there's always going to be some sort of like personal biases and like that sort of thing that people bring to it that which is why there are like different breakdowns of
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but
stuff.
It becomes a problem, right, when we have sort of these award voting for deals. So it's not as much as like it's pretty easy to tell who wins a Golden Glove, Silver Slugger. Those are purely statistics, but we're talking
You can look
about,
at the numbers pretty yeah
we're
directly.
talking about who deserves the MVP award, who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Should there not be qualifications on how those
what the
dudes,
benchmarks are, whatever.
Correct.
That I think there is definitely some discussion that could be had, especially because we are going to be witnessing, a lot of these newer leagues like PWHL and stuff don't have a Hall of Fame yet or anything, so they will have to kind of come up with what their definitions are. But there is, I mean, when you start doing those sorts of honors at the beginning, you are, whether intentionally or not, setting a sort of benchmark. And I think that's kind of the best way we can go off of it for the most part, is just sort of measuring based on what we have measurements of before until someone comes along and like breaks all of our measuring sticks.
So let me give you, I'm going to give you two different players here. These are two actual players.
Yep.
One who has had significant individual success, statistically just an absolute beast, probably one of the best players in the league ever.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another player, not significant. He's not insignificant statistically, but he has the most championships ever. He is not better than the guy without it, but he has far more championships than everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Should they be considered, are they allowed to go to the same place?
Are we having a Manning Brady discussion here?
No, these are, so the players I picked out are Carmelo Anthony, who we know here in the Denver area.
Yep.
There's no doubt he's top 75 NBA player all time. And then if I took Robert Horry, who's another NBA player, he has 7 championships to his name across his time in the career, which is more than even Jordan himself, which is a lot. Mm-hmm. But he's not a superstar player like Carmelo was sort of ever-ish, but he played he did really well at what he did, we'll say.
Yeah, and I think that is for sure an element where someone who's uninitiated or unfamiliar with basketball would maybe look at that, like you could lay out their numbers and be like, oh, well, this guy does, a lot of these numbers good, but this one has 7 championships, so he must be better. Or like he clearly was a valuable player in his time. And versus, someone who is more familiar with the game can maybe discern for themselves, like, yeah, Melo is more valuable to a team's success than who's the other guy? Robert Horry. There you go. So yeah, that's kind of dependent on the education and investment level of the observer.
So the weird thing is, right, unfortunately, sports, and this leads to another thought, is like the way I view sports and the way you view sports are just different, just by as human nature,
as it is between every individual. So like we all come to it with our own
what I value is
and
different. Maybe I value what Melo does, like you said, does a little bit more than Robert Horry. But if maybe you value what Robert Horry does more than what Melo ever did, because he clearly got the championship. He was doing something right.
Yeah, and then there's like regionalities and fandoms involved. Like I begrudgingly discuss Tom Brady's achievements because I'm not a Boston fan, just in general. While he did accomplish a lot, and maybe that's not the best example, but like there was like some Detroit Red Wings, only a couple of which I will acknowledge had good careers and whatnot, because I hate the Red Wings from that era. Less so nowadays, and they have fewer players to put in that category. So we don't have to worry about it
Yeah, but
as much anymore. But
the thought of this is like it becomes a problem for everyone involved. One, because nowadays there's like incentives tied to this. I think for every sport, but
for
also
sure.
if you get a
Yep.
vote and I get a vote,
And we're coming at it from
yeah,
completely
how
different
do
angles. Do these votes count the same
how
and
do
whatnot?
like
Yeah.
is there ever a way that we can agree on?
I will for sure 100% say I'm with you, like that this is an issue when it comes to like MVP voting and things of that nature. Like we have the thing where Ichiro didn't get the unanimous vote for his first year of eligibility, and everyone's like, okay, you're just being kind of a jerk about your vote if you're not acknowledging that one of the all-time greats of the game deserves to be in on this one. The MVP voting that we know about in the NBA for the last few years has very much been like well, who's due for the honor? Not necessarily, it doesn't actually have to do with, like, you do have to be playing well that season to even be in the conversation. But like we said, Jokic kind of got his third one as like a makeup for the year he didn't get it from Embiid. SGA, it kind of felt like this one was a makeup for last year when they gave it to Jokic when he needed a makeup one. And it's like, okay, and now are we even talking about the same year anymore, or is this like a list of guys we think needs the award that we're just kind of checking them
And
off the list?
maybe the answer is these awards are dumb, right? Like how do we
Very
how do we
subjective.
measure who's the most valuable? I mean, there are some ways we can measure
Yeah,
value of a player to a team. There are statistics like that, and the guy who, like you said, this for my NBA team didn't win the most valuable player because he was not on the best team at the time. So be it. But
yeah,
is it worthwhile to have these sort of awards around? Especially this talk is more relevant now because, like I said, there are incentives and money tied to these things. Granted, it's for some of these dudes, it doesn't really matter if you because it's millions
yeah,
of dollars for some of these dudes who have multi-million-dollar contracts, which is just like whatever.
yeah. It's absolutely wild. I think it's good to be having the conversations about who has been the best this year. I think for making people maybe a little happier or feel like there have been more players acknowledged. Maybe you don't. I think the biggest problem to me was specifically like MVP award. We don't have a everyone's on the same page with what valuable means. Is it the best player on the team with the most wins? Is that player the most valuable? Or is it the player who gave his team the most wins despite like if you are on a good player on a bad team, did you improve your team more than other players would have in that spot type of thing? That's where I think that you can get maybe a little bit more granular instead of saying most valuable, like just say most wins added or something, most best performance. I don't know. Maybe it's just getting more specific with the wording and having a few more of them to give out. Does that devalue it? Probably a little bit to some people's eyes, but it's easier to maybe defend. Like you won't have to feel weird about defending an MVP choice, like because there's always been some controversial MVP choices too throughout the years. One of Peyton's was very controversial. It was stolen
I
from
mean, in
Drew
the
Brees.
NBA voting, there's always like the media. If you have like if you're a local coverage, you always include your local guy there, even if he's like the third or whatever. So you get random dudes all
Yeah,
the time getting MVP votes who potentially don't deserve them because they're kind of throwing them away.
yeah, for sure. So I mean, yeah, it's a great question. Like I was kind of getting around to the way we discuss who is best is probably not the best for trying to add because best at what is probably the question. There probably will never be a consensus on overall just best, period. But you can get more granular into like best offensive, best defensive. This guy was the best rebounder of all time. Those sorts of things. I think it's easier to land on. And then once you have like a handful of those guys, you can kind of just it becomes more of a telling of what you value in the sport for who you say is best versus whether or not that's actually true or not. I think that's where the exercise gets into. But that's not necessarily a healthy
It's a
place to be posting monetary
yeah. So
rewards
if
and
we even
whatnot
took
on.
that idea right, so we kind of if you have like we kind of know like these guys are special. We're gonna kind of lump them together. We can find more guys like this. I think this is what this should be about, right? But now, if, let's face, for instance, you have someone who just completely breaks the mold. We'll say Wayne Gretzky, for instance, and say this is
Sure.
wow, this is a something. If we can get more of this guy, and then
Hard to argue in
yeah,
hockey, yeah, that
and
there
then you
are,
say, all right, let's find some more people like this dude. There isn't
and there's
anyone
no one else.
like this guy. Like then, how do we go
Yeah.
back? Go back, right?
For sure. I mean, I think that's also the thing that we have to remember. We are only living in the part of history that we are aware of, and like that is a thing from baseball. There was a lot of talk in the old days of, oh, you hadn't seen this guy play, and he played the game a
It's
completely
funny.
different
So
way.
me and you are born at a weird time, right? So we've seen you particularly more than I have seen transitions of sports, like going from if we go from hockey from the way it was played before the 90s, the early 2000s to the 2010s to how it's played now is very different. Same in basketball
Oh, yeah.
is so drastically different. How it's played in the 80s and the 90s is almost assault at some level. The 2000s is a little bit less different, and now we're sort of in this new modern era of football. You've seen the evolution of everything's revolving around the running back who's getting the MVP all the time to now this dude we can replace him at a whim. Brings
Yeah.
almost no value to the team for the most part. He's easily replaceable to now the QB is the dude who everything is based around. It's weird to see. It's I think it's hard to define success at least objectively without being aware of sort of at least moderately aware of all the things that have like gone on. Yes.
The history. Yeah. Because you also have to start. I mean, you'll get into discussions of eras, no matter what sport you're talking about: basketball eras, NFL eras, hockey eras, because the game has significantly changed over the years due to certain players coming in, certain rule changes, the intention of how the game is meant to be played. All the discussion. I mean, this is a classic one in basketball of, oh, would the hot players of this day have lasted in Jordan's era or in Bird's era or whenever era back when it was a completely different rule sets? It's like, no, but the league wasn't designed that way.
By this time. So if we go back to the original question is like, how can we define what success is in sports? If we just sort of step away even from like sort of the MVP of what the best conversation, can we, and I'm putting we as like the viewers and
a general consensus
say what success means. And I think I have to come back to no, because unfortunately we are all viewing this with a different perspective.
Yes, I think that is the landing point we will come to, is that as much as we like to be a consensus we of sports fans, of sports enjoyers, that we is made up of too many individuals to come to a collective, yes, this is success.
And then what do we do with the awards that are surrounded by the word success? So Hall of Fame and the MVP and other things that go around, like there's some people who are not in Hall of Fames for a number of reasons that should technically be there by whatever statistical or whatnot. Then
so very specifically, there are a couple of baseball players who have gotten into the headlines recently about this very exact situation, who on the field their performance was warranted of being in these halls of honor, but their personal actions off the field resulted in those bodies not choosing to honor them. And some people want to change that now in a sort of, as they say, the punishment for the crime has been paid or whatnot in years. But like I said, I think that's the biggest thing in these group discussions of success, is that what it reveals is more about what we in the consensus value about the sport, and which is why there is disagreement and a lack of consensus on it. But it's a thing that I would say a lot of, if you're a real diehard about your team. You will have players that um, don't get the media attention or like don't have the big contracts, but are like playing their heart and soul out, and you consider them, like the glue guys that we have touched on before, the Aaron Gordons, the Danny High Notes, the Logan O'Connors,
The Jack Johnsons,
the Christian Browns, these guys who are doing everything you want for as a teammate, as a player, as someone who's representing your town, your team, and they will never be regarded as some of the best players of all time or anything, but they mean something special to you, to your team. So those are and I think that's the beauty of sports too, is that everyone has that different relationship to it. Everyone is bringing their own personal biases into it. So, but because of that multidimensionality, we probably will never have agreed upon best number one overalls except Wayne Gretzky. That's the takeaway, right?
Takeaway.
Well, fantastic. This was a fun thought to get lost in, Zach, and I think it has warmed us up quite nicely for the last little bit I want to do here on the podcast this week, and that is, like I said, a little backdoor pilot. If you are familiar with old television shows, thing they used to do on an episode where you change things up just a little bit. You're not quite doing the routine, and we're going to try something a little new, and if everyone feels good about it, maybe you see some more of it in a different format. But this is a little something I would like to do called Pop Culture Craft, and this is where we discuss things outside of the sports world, but I'm making it relevant to our sports discussion today. And with you, Zach, you were actually one of the only people I could think of who I can discuss this topic with. And that is the filmography, the career, the sports stylings of Mr. Adam Sandler and his Happy Gilmore, now 2 films, nearly 30 years apart. I want to discuss the original, the sequel, and kind of everything that's happened with Adam Sandler in between. And I'd love to start with, do you remember the first time you saw Happy Gilmore?
Yeah.
And when was that?
I'm pretty sure I saw it over the grandparents' house, if I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure I was watching it with you, if I remember correctly.
I do not remember 100%, but that seems very likely that I was the one to introduce you to that movie. Do you remember at all how old you were?
I was young. I was like 5 or 6, I'd probably say.
Interesting. Okay. So yeah, we came to this movie at roughly the same times in our lives. This movie came out in 1996. I was 8 years old at the time. But let me paint the picture for you of 1996 when Happy Gilmore is coming out. So far in the 90s, Wayne Gretzky has been traded out to LA and has started a hockey boost out on the West Coast there.
Did this happen before or after the Mighty Ducks?
The Mighty Ducks franchise comes out first. They are a 93 or 94 movie for that very first one.
The California hockey boom is kind of already...
So we had a California hockey wave, then the Mighty Ducks come out and say, hey, Minnesota's a hockey town. Did you know that? And also, the first one is all Minnesota hockey, Pee Wee hockey.
Mm-hmm.
That gets a big upsurge. Then we've got Adam Sandler, who is a controversial figure on Saturday Night Live. He has just left the show after 5 years of, again, I personally look back on that era of the SNL pretty fondly with Chris Farley, David Spade, Chris Rock, Adam Sandler.
Yes,
those guys.
Top 2, probably, next to the great one of all time that everyone thinks of, the Belushi.
The very classic, yeah. But at the time, this was a pretty critically hit or miss casting.
Did you do this after or before Waterboy?
So this is before Waterboy. The first movie he leaves SNL, comes out with his first feature film, that's Billy Madison. And Billy Madison is a surprise actual success. Like, they gave him money and his movie made money back, so they said, you can make another one. And what he came up with was Happy Gilmore. When Happy Gilmore releases in 1996, the other thing that has just happened in 1996 that little 8-year-old Nick is absolutely ecstatic and in love with hockey about is that the Avs have just lifted the Stanley Cup. So now my whole world is shaded in hockey, and
the Avs came and lifted a cup.
Yeah, immediately. A new thing in town. It's called hockey. We're the best at it. I'm absolutely on board with this. And now there's a movie with Adam Sandler, and he is about hockey too. So all of that to say, this is a very important movie in my life, and I have watched it probably over a dozen times. That all being said, it is a kind of hit and miss movie with a lot of people, much like Adam Sandler's comedy in general.
Yeah, him and Will Ferrell do a thing to people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for most, it is regarded, at least in the sports realm, it is regarded as like a classic.
Absolutely. And the funny thing about it is that it did pick up with golfers for quite a generation. But that all being said, it is it is framed as a movie about a hockey player who, despite his best wishes, is not good at hockey, but is good at a different sport, is good at golf, or at least one aspect of the game of golf that gives him an unfair advantage. So there's a lot of themes in the Happy Gilmore that we can talk about. There is that passion for the sport you're playing. Does that matter? Do your motivations affect your play? There is the entire notion of classism in sport. Part of the big humor element in Happy Gilmore is he is this lowbrow bumpkin coming from the hockey world, which at the time was very much this is boxing on ice. Essentially, was still the public perception of the game. And here he comes to the refined country clubs, polo shirt wearing golf world. And that is basically the entire first half of the movie's jokes is, haha, we got a poor guy at the country club. But behind all of that, and the thing I kind of want to touch on with Happy Gilmore being the beginning of and one end of a spectrum of Adam Sandler's career of sports movies, because as we go on from Happy Gilmore, Adam Sandler gets to make more movies, and he dips into the sports world more and more. He goes on to make Waterboy in 1998, so a couple years later for football. Takes a little break from the sports genre for about 7 years, and then hits us with his remake of The Longest Yard.
I forgot. Yeah, it does football again. I forgot.
In 2005, and has now kind of come up, and this is a new era of Adam Sandler at this point, where he's a decade into filmmaking and is getting pretty good budget. He can get a lot of sports people in.
I don't know if The Longest Yard is his or if he was just starring in it.
Well, generally, it is a Happy Madison production. So
it is?
Yeah.
It actually, I didn't know.
Yeah, in general, Adam Sandler has been very savvy about financing his own filmmaking.
It helps when your friends are really
exactly
good actors as well.
Yes, he has been very good at networking within the celebrity and sports world and able to bring those real and that was one of the big selling points too. The Longest Yard was like all the cameos they were bringing in for recognizable people to be in this football movie. Nelly was in there.
A lot of wrestlers were in there. Chris Rock was in there. Another couple of famous comedians. Tracy Morgan was in there.
Yep, classic. So Longest Yard. I kind of put this one in because it's tangentially related to sports world, but he hit us with Uncut Gems in 2019.
A movie that is the most controversial movie on the list by far.
For sure. And then before he hit us with our sequel to Happy Gilmore, he also threw out Hustle in 22, which I would say is sort of the exact opposite side of, if we think Waterboy, I would say Waterboy is the most comical, slapsticky cartoon of a...
More than Happy Gilmore, you think?
I would say Waterboy is just a little bit more, and then Happy Gilmore right after that. But then Hustle is that kind of exact opposite end of realistic.
I would put Hustle a little bit closer to Happy Gilmore-ish, because Uncut Gems is like that one's...
That's the raw realism?
Yeah, that one's the raw realism for sure.
Interesting. So, I would say...
Did you watch Hustle?
I haven't finished it in its entirety yet. I'm still making it through my full sitting, but I've seen bits and pieces of it before. Like I've seen the bits with like the NBA players and whatnot in the cinematography. Fantastic.
It's a really good movie.
It is 100%. And this is sort of one of the conversations I want to get into here is, has Adam Sandler figured out, like, is he making some of our best sports movies? Do any of these rank in your best, like, best football, best basketball movies of all time, best hockey movies.
What are we defining? Okay,
This
so
is
what are we
personal preference here.
Just personal preference here.
Does it rank as a top sports movie for you? Any of them?
And are we talking about sports movies, or are we just talking about in their respective categories?
I will leave that up to you. If we want to get granular about it, sport by sport, I'll take that. But does any of the Adam Sandler filmography make it onto your list? Best sports, best basketball, best hockey movies, period.
I would say yes. I think for me personally, I really did. I think all of them deserve their place. If we're talking about just granularly, I think they all end up on at least my personal, in the respective sports for sure. Happy Gilmore's like, it belong. I think that one is in my top like sports movies overall, but is like the number one golf movie for me.
Mm-hmm.
The Longest Yard is up there, and I think football movies for me. I don't know if it's one of my favorite sports movies. Hustle is really, really good, and is I think different than a lot of basketball movies have been. There's always been sort of the trope within basketball movies where it's like, well, there's this relationship aspect that's happening, and there's basketball being played, or it's this goofy basketball that's happening. There's nothing that's been sort of
Hustle is very much a love letter to the process of building a league and like the pipeline of how a player gets into the league.
Yeah, it's much
which
more,
is a very unique aspect that has not gotten the film treatment.
It's much more real than I think a lot of other basketball movies have been thus far that are not documentary based, I should say.
Yeah, different beast to make a fictional basketball movie versus documenting what actually happened, like an actual historical occurrence.
Yeah, Happy Gilmore just for sure, Waterboy for sure. I think are in my top sports movies. The Longest Yard I think is for sure in my top, and just in my general top sports movies. I don't even know I don't know what my favorite sports movie of all time is, actually.
That's a good one to think about. But yeah, because I would say, now here's another one as far as football, which ranks higher, Waterboy or Longest Yard?
That's tough.
Right.
They are two different movies. I think if we're just talking about football itself, I think I like The Longest Yard because it's a little bit more.
The Longest Yard is a better football movie.
It is a better football movie overall. The Waterboy, I think, is a comedy movie that's about football.
It's dressed in football.
Yeah. Personally, I like The Longest Yard better because I think it resonated with me a little bit more at the time I watched it. It holds a
you were older,
yeah.
Able to take in those themes of redemption and whatnot. Speaking of themes, we talked about some of the ones in original Happy Gilmore, the classism, the personal motivation of the athlete, because as we know, Happy is trying to make money to save his grandma's home, and then in Act 3, before we get to Act 3, the villain ends up outbidding him for his grandma's home.
No spoilers here?
No spoiler warning on the movie from 96. It's as old as you are if you haven't seen Happy Gilmore yet. Now, I should say, a little spoiler warning. We'll give a spoiler warning for Happy Gilmore 2, which has only been out for a month. And that one's a fair one that some people might not have dipped in, but yes, we will probably be spoiling some of the plot elements of Happy Gilmore 2 here.
Have you watched that one more than once, or have you just watched that
the one time on family film night? So you and I have the same amount of taking that one in. But yeah, so as a comparison, I've seen the original Happy Gilmore probably 24 times.
I was going to say I've seen it at least 12 times myself.
Yeah.
So
that being said, what was your take on Happy Gilmore 2? All of this, build up on the original and Mr. Sandler's filmmaking, leading up to 30 years later, a sequel to one of his most beloved franchises. A lot of people said some of those 90s ones maybe shouldn't be redone. But how did you take it?
So I think I personally I liked it. I'll start just with my feelings alone. I liked it a lot, actually. There's been some sort of it's another one that's kind of, like we said, Happy Gilmore is probably in a lot of people's just top sports movies of all time. So there's some different feels around doing a sequel of it, and everyone feels different about it. So it's a little controversial still for the most part. But personally, I liked it a lot for a movie that is a sequel of something, like you said, happened 30 years ago, a little less than 30 years ago, because it did come out when I was
29 born. Years, yeah.
Yeah. We're not quite 30 yet. But I liked it a lot. Like when you're doing a sequel of something, usually you're coming out a couple years later, your Star Wars, your Harry Potters, things of that, something that's a little bit
this
more.
This is 2 generations in between.
2 generations between. I think it's still it had enough of the comedy, and it still held like the plot and the feeling around Happy Gilmore. It's not better than the original, but it didn't disappoint me as much as I thought it was going to, which is why I was myself a little bit hesitant to watch it.
Sure. I had some mixed feelings going in as well, because there is the element of like, he's such a different Adam Sandler is such a different person now in his life. He is an A-list star of comedy. He gets billions of dollars.
Have you ever watched a movie, you like the first one, and then you watch the sequel and it just ruins everything for you?
I mean, I've been fortunate that most of the franchises I get involved in haven't had that step, but I like The Matrix is maybe up there as in terms of like the second one where you're just like, that did not hit the same.
No. And then it's like, I don't even want to watch the first one anymore.
No, I don't think I've had any that have a sequel has absolutely ruined the first one for me, but
franchise, yeah.
For sure it was a concern, a worry. And I will say that I was also pleasantly surprised at how well Adam Sandler was able to bring kind of both halves of himself in this one. He definitely reminded us he can go back to 90s, young, out of college Adam Sandler, making dick and fart jokes, and it's slapstick, people getting hit with golf balls, and still making it funny, though. That's the thing, is you can say, oh, what puerile writing, and you still laugh when it happens, if you're watching with an open mind and an open heart and a willingness to let some silly antics let you laugh. But all of that said, it was still a movie about a man who... Now, here's another thing that I kind of looked at or realized as I was looking through this filmography. And one of the things that I give Adam Sandler a lot of credit for, as much as he likes to write himself into these romances with actresses who you can't fault a guy for trying and whatnot through his career...
Is every movie he's in a Billy Madison, or what is it? What is his production studio
Happy
called?
Madison?
Yeah, Happy Madison studio.
Most of them are, yeah.
He's been like is he like 51st Dates or
yep,
something
that was
like
him.
that? Yeah.
And he had a lot of misses, too, in that comedy era of just like, I'm pandering out. He was also behind a lot of the Rob Schneider turns into this thing era that South Park made fun of.
Fair enough, yeah.
So, it's not an unblemished record, but I would say in his 30 years of filmmaking now, a thing that he has continued to go to, he doesn't make protagonists that are perfect, or in fact, the characters he plays by and large are very flawed human beings. Happy Gilmore has anger issues. The water boy has is lacks education, and that's not a character flaw in and of himself, but
it is a chink in the armor that he does have.
The Longest Yard, he's in prison. He is a criminal.
He made a mistake.
Yeah. And then even in Hustle, he's trying his best to be a scout, a coach, but also having to balance his family life and not doing it perfectly. He is a mortal man. He is always a mortal man with flaws, with imperfections. And I think that is one of the elements that makes it work, that makes the comedy work, that makes it, you can get on his side because there's a relatableness in that sometimes very hyper flawed characterization, which he brings, which, is an element I think in Happy Gilmore 2 that comes out a lot, is that Happy is not a perfect man. Like, even though he had golf success at the end of the first movie, we are told very quickly at the beginning, it did not last for him. Happy has this thing about death around him, recurring death, and how he has to deal with that I think is very human and is kind of wild to be handled so regularly in this quote-unquote comedy movie, but is a thing that, and he brings it back in the second one. His dad dies when he's a kid at a hockey game. He kills his own mentor, Chubbs, and then they wrote in the second one, spoiler alert, here we go for Happy Gilmore 2, that he is responsible for the death of his own wife.
He did kill the alligator as well in the first one.
That one was straight up murder, 100% premeditated and intentional. But yes, that is one of the many deaths that he does rack up. So there's this thing of people keep dying around him. What sort of responsibility does that have? Does he have for that? He carries the death of his wife a lot harder and a lot longer than he does the death of Chubbs. But it's a thing he's still carrying because we know we meet Chubbs' son in Happy Gilmore 2, a fun callback and inclusion of what's his name, LeVar. It was also fun that they named him Slim to be Chubbs.
Carl Weathers is his name.
Carl Weathers was Chubbs, and then the comedian that got to play his son in this one, he was also one of the what was it in Breaking Bad? He was like the comic relief bad guy alongside Bill Burr.
Lavelle Crawford.
Thank you. There we go. Those elements coming up, and there's a whole scene that really I caught my attention in Happy Gilmore 2, where Happy and Shooter have a fist fight in the cemetery amongst the headstones of all the actors from the original who had died since the filming of the second one were not able to be in it, where they did cut in footage and they wrote in the bits that those characters were kind of responsible for. And I don't know, that was a very interesting way of like nodding to the past there to me.
Yeah, I think it's hard, like in this sort of retrospect, I think a lot of those characters had a big part in the movie. Like the Bob Barker part is it's kind of like a
iconic.
Widely recognized.
Yeah.
It's an iconic scene around the.
If you don't know anything about Happy Gilmore, you know he fights Bob Barker.
Yeah, it's a fun little bit. I mean, Carl Weathers, of course, who is a huge piece of who helped sort of him being Chubbs and forming who Happy Gilmore is and becoming the golfer that he is. Unfortunately, did pass away, and having I think you have to have a nod to him because he was literally a huge part of the movie.
Oh yeah, 100%. And in fact, I read a thing that they were originally writing it with Carl Weathers involved still, so that it was going to be more of Happy having to go through. Carl Weathers would, because his character is still dead. Chubbs has already canonically died in the original Happy Gilmore, but Carl Weathers would come back as sort of an Obi-Wan ghost for Happy, while Happy has to kind of heal that relationship with with Chubbs' son. They unfortunately, then did have to kind of cut that storyline out and just make it so that Slim had already forgiven Happy for losing his father, which good on him. The notion of, I don't know, this sort of guilt that Happy's carrying for this whole second movie here, while also having to be this I also found very interesting. So the other big element we're given in Happy Gilmore 2 is sort of the old school traditional way of golfing versus this new progressive shake 'em up that was no way inspired by the new competitive league to the PGA, the LIV in real life at all.
Nope.
And the notion that Happy ends up on the defending traditionalism side of that, when he was in fact like the barrier breaker into
the rule breaker.
Yeah, in this old one. Did you catch on to that at all, or how did you feel about? I mean, it did lead up to the fun of Happy teaming up with all of our fun pro golfer cameos. But does that track? Would Happy Gilmore have sided with the old guard?
I mean, we've kind of seen this story happen already in actual real life, right? When Liv tried to take away Tiger Woods from the PGA, and Tiger's like, this is, I don't know what you guys are doing, but this is what the real golf is. And I think Tiger Woods, I would say that he was some inspiration for Happy Gilmore, at least a little bit.
Certainly there's an element of that. Tiger had not compiled quite the resume of success at the point that Happy Gilmore was coming out, where it could be an obvious 1-to-1, but in the 29 years since then, yes, they did sort of embrace, because it was the recurring line where Shooter was like, I was the best golfer of the 90s, and Happy's like, yeah, you were right behind me and Tiger.
Yeah, I think that it is true. I think very similar to Tiger. I think the way he holds the tour in the movie it means more to him than siding with sort of this new weird cool golf thing that maybe that is very heavily inspired by himself, in fact.
And yeah, so that was interesting. The other thing, topic I wanted to cover from Happy Gilmore 2 that they touch on is the notion of at what point does physical alteration cross the line into now we don't like that for sports enhancement? Because as a plot point in the movie, they determined that there is, what was it, like a ligament in the hips that they could snip out of the golfers, and it would allow them to wind up to emulate Happy Gilmore's amount of power without having to do the inaccurate run up pose. And that was sort of the bad guys have all had this surgical alteration, and that's not a thing that any of our traditionalists are doing. I mean, and it sort of paints it as this is an extreme, kind of weird thing to do, but we're pretty closely on the edge of some of these real life cases where when does medical treatment become too much sports enhancement?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't. We luckily haven't seen it yet in majority of our professional sports. I would say, I don't how far people willing to go to become professionals. That's
Yeah, I would say thankfully we haven't had to settle with that in real
I
life
think
at
it
all.
is-
It has been largely fictional examples of
there
it.
is I think there is. I think it'd be taboo for sure. Like it wouldn't. Most of the people get here and there's like some God gifted talent and whatnot involved and with some abilities, but having a surgery, I think people for sure would have a surgery if they could get them just a little bit farther in the sport or passion that they love. Maybe it's not like all those dudes in the movie, the people in the movie. Maybe it's not making it to the tour, but going on to do something.
The difference
else,
between
or-
like being able to be like an amateur or a professional level, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of people would be a no brainer to get a surgery to perform to be a competitive level with the true athletes
Yeah.
or the professional athletes.
I think for sure if they had found out that the thing from the Rookie or Rookie of the Year where his arm healed funny and it made him throw crazy good, if that had been a real thing, it probably would be standard procedure in the MLB by now.
Yeah, Tommy John you up and then Rookie of the Year.
Oh man, terrible. We have the imperfect character of Happy. We have him trying to defend the old school golf versus this new wave performanceal thing. How did you take the turn of Shooter McGavin going from bitter rival to ally in this one in Happy Gilmore 2? Because they reintroduce Shooter to us as someone who has held on to this grudge, this notion that Happy Gilmore does not belong in this professional golf world, and then pretty quickly resolve that into, oh no, actually we've come to find that we are on the same side of things.
It's always the old what is it, like verbiage? The enemy of the enemy is my friend.
Yep.
Which Shooter's whole thing, for the most part, I mean, characteristically, has always been like he wants the tour to be pure, whether that means keeping out the bumpkins like Happy Gilmore, unfortunately, for the betterment of his sport, or that means these psychos are getting performance enhancing surgery, and now this, which is crazy, which is not for the betterment of his sport. Like that's the thing is for him, he holds the tour just as close as Happy by this point now that it makes sense for them to kind of team up and go against this greater evil.
And I think that combines back to our Lost in Thought segment where it reflects on you as a person, what you value in the sport for who you consider to be good, and for Shooter McGavin to get out of his mental institution holdings, get a new look at the landscape of golf, and be like, oh, actually, Happy Gilmore is on the right side of things. Again, is very telling, yes, of where Shooter McGavin, what Shooter McGavin values about golf, and the fact that he did think that Happy Gilmore was infringing upon that in the original movie, but with time has come to see that, oh no, actually there are greater threats to the game of golf.
It's interesting to me about how, like, I understand what the storyline, why they told it, and I think it's a good one, but it could have gone the other way, where Shooter's obsessed with victory and beating Happy, that he can throw aside the thing he truly values most.
Which is honestly what I thought they were going to do originally.
I also thought they were going to go that way.
It very much seemed set up that Shooter would be the lead of this new wave. I guess it's just kind of coming to me right now. That would have made him a mockery of himself from the 90s. So I guess a more sentimental or humanistic take on Shooter McGavin there. But yeah, that it's... Now, I guess I can keep rambling on about just these different aspects of the movie for quite a while, but we'll go ahead and I think wrap it up since we're nearing our original time here. Just finish up. Which did you prefer more, the original Happy Gilmore or Happy Gilmore 2?
The original, by far. I think the original still... I think it's tough to beat the original because it's iconic, it's a classic, it's really tough to outdo yourself, and usually in cinema history, the sequels never are as good as the original.
Yes, I think I concur with you there. Well, Happy Gilmore 2, I think that this has kind of been the consensus, at least from anyone I've heard, including the people who had just also watched the movie, who were sitting in front of us at the baseball game we went to last week, that it was just better than you thought it would be. Maybe a little trepidation across the board for everyone who's like, okay, it's been a while since we'll get back into Happy Gilmore, but no, it's still very good.
It is a good movie. I'm not saying it's not a good movie. It's a good movie, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not the same thing that the original Happy Gilmore was. I'm 100% with you there, and would love to break down all these fun sort of narrative themes and whatnot for some other media that I'm a big fan of. We've been doing been intaking a lot of K-pop Demon Hunters this summer, and I've got some things to say about that, and I could go off on Star Wars and all those number of things, but I think we'll wrap up our pop culture craft discussion on the Adam Sandler verse for there today. Unless you have any other closing thoughts on Mr. Sandler and his sports films.
The one thing I will say about him is that I am thankful that he is making these sports movies, because there's nothing quite like them. Like there's nowhere else you can find a Waterboy or a Happy Gilmore other than inside of a crazy man's mind, of course. I am fortunate enough that we've been around enough that we've gotten to see a sequel of. We're not going to. Be a miracle to see a sequel of a Waterboy 2.
I was going to say, I don't think there should be a Waterboy 2.
No,
we can go back to that story, we can go back to that world, but whatever that movie is, definitely is not centered around Bobby Boucher anymore.
It could be, but in a different aspect. I have some...
Bobby Boucher is the coach or something now. He's the Henry Winkler character type of thing.
Yeah.
That I can maybe see, but it can't be called Waterboy. It can't be one of the equipment managers is freakishly good at the sport.
Son of the Waterboy.
Maybe.
Coming to a Netflix near you.
Okay. Well, with that, I think that is a good place to close it out on this one. Thank you, Zach, and thank you, everyone, for listening along with my indulgence here on Pop Culture Craft.
Yes, always fun to hear some new thoughts, new segments. If you've enjoyed Pop Culture Craft, let us know. Potentially may just spin it off just for some fun.
Let me keep rambling for an hour into the microphone, and I will put it online for you.
Yeah, maybe it's a Nick just on his own podcast. Maybe we do another duo podcast like this. We'll figure something out.
Maybe I'll find guests to talk to me about the things. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you guys for joining us along this journey. Once again, Labor Day weekend, a little short week in sports. All of you have a good Labor Day weekend, long weekend. Thank you for listening. If you've made it this far, of course, please do follow us. Please subscribe to our YouTube. 321 Pods is where you can find us in most places.
Yep.
On the YouTube, I think it is actual digit 321 Pods. Yep. Yes. Digits 321pods.com as well, or the 321 Pods, 3 spelled out, 21pods.com. Find us in both those places. Give us, like I said, give us thumbs, give us likes, follow us everywhere that you hear us. Thank you guys for joining us. Once again, of course, I'm your mad scientist of the pod. At least I thought I was just the only mad scientist around here. And along with me, of course, has been my labor union expert in NFLPA representative Nick.
Don't forget to thank labor unions for days off and 8-hour work days, folks.
We will see you guys next week.
Adios.